Apache trades farms for a son, but falls for the widow, a shocking love story. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the vast, barren land. It was a landscape of faded dreams and desperate bargains. Among the rustling grasses, a figure stood, cloaked in mystery. Apache, a brooding man with eyes like storm clouds, had made a choice that shocked the whole town. He'd traded away his farms, once vibrant and fertile, in a desperate gamble to gain a son. Whispers filled the air like wildfire, igniting curiosity and horror. "Who gives up farms for a boy?" they asked, eyes wide with disbelief. His heart was heavy with grief, a tidal wave of emotion threatening to drown him. Apache felt the weight of every accusing stare, every murmured judgment. The townsfolk pointed fingers, their voices laced with both sympathy and suspicion. They didn't understand. He needed someone to carry on his name, to fill the hollow spaces in his life, left aching by loss. But then came the widow. She entered the scene like a dark horse. Tall and enigmatic, her presence sent shivers down spines. The sun glinted off her raven-black hair, so striking against the dusty backdrop. A woman with secrets buried deep, she wrapped herself in sadness and strength, drawing Apache closer like a moth to a flame. Was she the answer to his prayers or the beginning of a new pain? Every glance shared between them sparked electricity, pure and unnerving, leaving the surrounding air thick with tension. As they exchanged hesitant words, the world around them faded. Her laughter was like a distant chime, it danced on the wind, playing tricks on his heart. It was both beautiful and terrifying. Townsfolk noticed their connection. Murmurs escalated, eyebrows raised in judgment. Is he hunting for love, or is the widow aiming to claim what's left of his heart? The rumors flew. The curiosity of the community intensified, and as Apache stood there, torn between loyalty and longing, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was on the brink of something life-altering, something dangerous. Could love bloom in the ashes of his sacrifices? Or would the past claw its way back into his life, twisting fate's threads into a darker tapestry? Apache's heart raced, caught in a whirlwind of emotions, each pulse echoing the urgent question that haunted him: was he trading one heartache for another? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference, let us connect. Apache felt a tremor in his chest as the widow stepped closer, her dark eyes searching his. The heat between them crackled, and for a moment, nothing else mattered. Her presence ignited something deep within him: longing, desperation, a flicker of hope. But surrounding their moment was a heavy shroud of judgment from the townsfolk, their whispers creeping in, like ominous shadows that threatened to swallow them whole. "Maybe you should stay away from her," one man muttered from a distance, his tone dripping with disdain. "She'll lead you to ruin, just like the others." Apache clenched his jaw, an instinctual defense rising within him. He turned to face the source, eyes stormy with defiance. "You know nothing about what I've lost. Or what I need," he spat, feeling sweat bead on his brow. He could sense the onlookers recoiling, their gaze flickering between him and the widow, their judgments clouding the air. The widow, undeterred, moved closer, her voice a low, soothing whisper. "Don't listen to them." Her words wrapped around him like a blanket, pulling him further into her world. What do they know of pain or loss? He wanted to believe her. Wanted to drown out the noise of the town, the doubt, the fear that churned in his gut like a storm. Here was a woman who seemed to understand the relentless ache of grief, the chilling fear of solitude. But was it enough? Could this connection withstand the tempest of scrutiny and secrets that surrounded them both? "Are you really willing to risk it all?" Apache asked, searching her face for a hint of sincerity. To get tangled in this? The weight of his past loomed behind him, a shroud that darkened any light of hope. You don't have to do this. She smiled softly, but there was a flicker of something deeper behind her eyes. Resolve, perhaps? Maybe I want to take that risk, Apache. Maybe I see in you what they refuse to accept. Her words made his heart race, warming him against the chill of doubt. But he could also sense a storm brewing within her. As night began to draw its curtain, the tension escalated. The townspeople were restless, curious, their whispers sharpening into barbs. Look at them. It's scandalous. A woman screeched, clutching her apron like armor against the unknown. Apache took a step back, trying to create distance between them, between his heart and the suffocating weight of opinions. I don't know if we should. A sharp cry interrupted him, slicing through the murmurs of the crowd. It came from the edge of the field, a startling sound that sent heads turning. Fear rippled through the air. A figure emerged from the shadows, stumbling towards them, a boy with dirt-streaked cheeks and wide, terrified eyes. Apache! Help! He yelled, gasping for breath, his eyes darting in panic. Apache's heart dropped. The boy was frail, but there was a wild spark in his gaze. A desperate plea for safety. Was this the son he'd traded everything for? The thought struck him like lightning. But before he could gather his thoughts, the boy collapsed at his feet, panting heavily. What happened? Apache knelt beside him, concern flooding his senses. They're coming. They want to take him. The boy gasped, pointing back into the growing darkness. A chill coursed through Apache. His mind raced through possibilities. Whispers of danger surrounded not only him but the widow too. Had his desire for connection sown the seeds of danger? He looked up at the widow, whose expression had hardened but still held that flicker of warmth. Was she just as entangled now? Was the risk greater than he had thought? The crowd began to murmur again, eyes wide with fear and recognition. An unspoken question hung thick in the air. What sinister force was closing in? With the darkness falling swiftly, Apache felt an urgency swell within him. We need to go now, he urged, pulling the boy to his feet. Whatever is coming, we'll face it together. But as they turned to leave, the murmurs turned to gasps. Apache sensed it before he saw it, the shadows shifting, figures moving closer. And with a heart threatening to explode, he realized they weren't alone, the storm had only just begun. Would the widow stand by his side, or would the past pull them apart just when they needed each other the most? The air felt electric, sharp with fear. Apache looked at the boy, breathless and trembling, pulling him closer. The crowd around them shifted uneasily, whispers growing louder. Panic carved through the onlookers' faces, their gazes darting to the shadows closing in around the field. Who's coming? Apache demanded, his voice rough. The boy shook his head, terror distorting his features. I don't know. They said they'd take him. Apache's chest tightened. Every instinct screamed at him to protect this boy, the boy he had lost. But now? The fear of the past colliding with the present hung thick in the air, chilling him to the bone. The widow stepped closer, unfazed by the mounting tension. Her breath steadied, the weight of the moment settling upon her. We can't stay exposed like this, she urged, eyes locked onto Apache's. We have to find shelter. Behind them, the night seemed to thicken. The whispers morphed into something darker, palpable, alive. Apache could feel the crowd press in, judgment lacing their stares like daggers. They feared what they didn't understand. His heart pounded. Could they sense the danger creeping closer, the shadows beginning to stretch? With a sharp intake, Apache grabbed the boy's hand. Come on. He started toward the edge of the field, leading them into the weight of the night. But just as they moved, a flash caught his eye. Figures emerged from the swirling darkness, silhouettes that sent a shudder down his spine. They were tall, imposing, heavy with presence. Apache felt the widow jolt beside him, and he quickened his pace. "Look out!" she shouted, her voice slicing through the clamor. A rumble of laughter echoed behind them, deep and unsettling. The shadows moved closer, sneering faces coming into view. "Look at the lovers!" one man jeered, thick with contempt. "Running from their own mistakes." Apache's fists clenched, the urge to fight swelling within him. This was not about him. Not anymore. It was about the boy, about something precious he longed to protect. "Keep going," he urged, urging the boy to run faster. They darted through the field, the cool night air rushing past. But the shadows pursued them, feet pounding against the earth, laughter echoing. The town turned into a blur of emotion, fear, anger, disbelief. With every step, Apache could feel the weight of the town pressing down, their judgment hanging like lead. He couldn't look back. As they reached the tree line, the widow called out. "Here. Behind the trees." She gestured to a thick cluster of branches, their shelter promising a momentary escape. Duck and weave, Apache thought. He pulled the boy behind the trees, and the widow followed. They pressed against the trunk, breathing heavily, hearts racing like wild horses. Heavy footsteps thudded closer, but for now, they were hidden from sight. With desperate breaths, Apache peered around the bark. The figures flickered in and out of darkness, searching. "We can't stay here for long," he muttered, anxiety clawing at his gut. "They'll find us." The boy beside him looked up, eyes round with fear. "What if they take me? I can't go back." His voice was a whisper, trembling, breaking through the tension. Apache's heart twisted. He reached for the boy's shoulder, squeezing it gently, trying to offer reassurance. "I won't let that happen. I promise." But how could he keep that promise? The words tasted bitter. The threats of the crowd, the shadows looming, all loomed like an impossible weight to bear. Then a new sound cut through the silence, a crack from deeper in the woods. Panic shot through Apache. What was out there with them? What hunted in the dark? The widow held her breath beside him, tension coiling between them as all three listened, waiting. A tormented scream shattered the night, a sound so raw, so filled with loss that it echoed in Apache's chest. It was close, too close. Fear lanced through him. "We need to move," he insisted, the urgency like fire on his tongue. But where? The shadows were everywhere. Before he could think further, the laughter returned, cruel and mocking. The figures moved closer, darkness stretching over them like a monstrous blanket. Nowhere to hide. A voice taunted, melding with the surrounding fear. Apache knew he had to act, but what could he do against this, against the darkness pushing in? Would the widow still stand with him, or would she vanish in the night, just like everything else he had lost? A flicker of hope fought within him as he glanced at her. "Whatever comes, we face it together. Right?" But the answer waited on the edge of their breaths, fragile and uncertain. And then, just as the laughter crescendoed, flickers of a torchlight broke the horizon, illuminating the figures closing in, revealing what they were truly up against. The torchlight flickered like a heartbeat in the dark. Apache squinted, trying to make out the figures moving beyond the trees. The shadows around him and the boy felt like a suffocating blanket, pulling tighter. Fear threatened to crush him, but he couldn't let it take hold. "Not now." "Stay close," he whispered, pulling the boy closer to him. The widow pressed against the other side, her eyes wide, the light dancing across her face like specters. "What are they?" the boy asked, trembling. His voice was a tiny gasp, swallowed by the night. "People who think they own this place," Apache replied, clenching his fists. His heart raced. The laughter grew louder, a sinister melody of mockery and power. The figures moved toward them, illuminated by the torch as it swayed. Apache caught glimpses of jagged faces, eyes glinting with malice. They took slow steps, reveling in the fear they inspired. "Come out!" one of the men shouted, his voice coarse, overbearing. "We know you're hiding." The widow glanced at Apache, her expression tight with determination. "We can't let them draw us in. We need a plan." A muffled cry broke through the air, a reminder of the earlier scream. Apache shivered. The woods felt haunted. What could we possibly do? They're everywhere. His words hung heavy with hopelessness. "Listen," she urged, pressing her hand against his arm. "We can't stay hidden forever. We have to create a distraction. We need to get out through the other side of the trees. What if they catch us?" The boy's voice trembled, gripping Apache's shirt tightly. "They won't," Apache said, forcing conviction into his words. "I promise." But inside, he felt the churn of doubt. Suddenly, one of the figures paused, sniffing the air like a wolf on a hunt. "I can smell your fear," he taunted, throwing his head back in laughter. The sound chilled Apache's blood. "What if we split up?" the widow suggested, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. "They'll be two vulnerable targets instead of three. One of us can create a diversion while the others escape." "No." Apache shook his head, heart racing. "I won't leave you." "I can't, Apache," she pressed, eyes piercing into his. "You need to protect him. And I need to draw them away so you can get him out in one piece." The boy's grip slipped from Apache's shirt, fear replacing determination in his wide eyes. "I can't lose you too," he cried, a new wave of panic rising. "Don't you dare say that." Apache's voice cracked, raw emotion breaking through like a dam bursting. "We're not losing anyone tonight." The laughter resumed, filling the night air, capturing all their fears, gnawing away at their resolve. Apache glanced at the torchlight flickering beyond the trees. He could feel the darkness stirring as the figures transformed into predators. "Okay, what's the plan?" he blurted, needing to break the hold of fear. They had to do something. The widow took a deep breath, glancing toward the direction of the torchlight. "I'll get their attention. When they start looking for me, you both make a run for it." "No," protested the boy. "You can't go out there alone. If I stay, they'll only come after all of us." Her voice was hard, final. "We don't have any other choice." Suddenly, there was a loud crack behind them. A branch snapped in the darkness, echoing like a gunshot. Apache's heart stopped. The figures froze, abruptly alert. "Did you hear that?" one of them whispered. "They're nearby." Panic surged through Apache. "We don't have much time," he shouted. "Go. Now." Before he could take another breath, the widow moved, darting toward the chaotic laughter. "Want a chase?" she called loud enough for the figures to hear. It was a gamble, a wild throw, but it might just work. "Get out of here!" Apache shouted, urgency clawing at his throat. He shoved the boy forward, thrusting him in the direction of a potential escape route past the trees. With fear fueling him, Apache dashed after the widow, trying to get closer. "I'll come for you," he yelled, his voice strained. But everything felt like a movie spiraling out of control. The figures, suddenly aware of the distraction, scattered. Apache's heart raced as he stole glances back at the boy, who stumbled to follow. But in a moment of horror, Apache saw the widow throw herself into the woods, drawing the shadows away, lights flickering wildly in the night. "Run!" she yelled, the sound pierced by the laughter echoing around them. As Apache pushed the boy hard, moving faster than he thought possible, dread rushed through him. Would they be safe? Would he get to the widow in time? The darkness loomed behind, pressing in. Panic surged. Was this the end? Or a chance to save them all? But the sound of the torchlight began to fade, and then sudden silence crushed the air tightly, leaving only the sound of their desperate breaths echoing through the trees. Then, a scream sliced through the quietness. A scream that froze Apache's heart. "Please no!" he gasped, eyes wide. Before he could answer the question burning in his mind, he could feel the sinister pull of the shadows creeping closer once again. Was it all going to end in darkness this time? Would he find the courage to step into the unknown, or was this just a cruel delusion? The scream echoed through the trees, a sound so raw and filled with despair that it stole the air from Apache's lungs. He whipped around, his heart hammering violently against his ribcage. This wasn't happening. Not now. "Did you hear that?" The boy whimpered, eyes wide and shimmering in the dim light. The fear etched across his face felt like a dagger twisting in Apache's heart. "Yes." Apache's voice was a frantic whisper, urgency spilling over every syllable. "We need to go. Right now." He grabbed the boy's hand tightly, pulling him forward. The forest closed in around them, shadows dancing menacingly as they ran. Each step felt like they were sprinting toward a darkness that might swallow them whole. The laughter of the figures drifted behind them, twisted and cruel, punctuated by something that sounded like a howl. Apache squeezed the boy's hand tighter, his breath coming out in heavy gasps. The urgency wrapped around him like chains. "Faster!" he urged, glancing back, dread pooling in his gut. They broke through a thick patch of trees, the moonlight flickering overhead. For a brief moment, Apache's vision cleared. But then, all around him, figures surged from the shadows, closing in fast wild eyes and gnarled smiles. His heart raced as he turned back to the boy. "We need to split up and find a way out. Head toward that ridge." "No. I can't leave you." The boy denied, desperation rising like panic in Apache's chest. "Listen to me." Apache's voice cracked. "You have to." He paused, locking eyes with the boy, hoping to convey the urgency in his gaze. "If you find the widow, you can help her. Please." But before the boy could respond, from behind them came a guttural growl, inhuman, monstrous. The boy shivered, frozen in fear for a moment. Apache felt the shadows under his skin reach out, and in that instant, everything shifted. "Go!" he shouted, pushing the boy in the direction of the ridge. "I'll distract them." The boy turned, the hesitation visible in his movement, but he bolted into the darkness, his small figure swallowed up in the night. Apache couldn't waste a split second. He could hear the figures behind him, their laughter twisting into chilling taunts. "Think you can escape?" one of them jeered, the voice thick with mockery. "We're just getting started." Apache's heart thudded hard against his ribs. He turned and faced the advancing figures, gathering all his courage. "If it's a chase you want, I'll give you one," he shouted, adrenaline pumping through his veins. He let instinct take over, darting deeper into the woods. Branches clawed at his face and arms, but he pushed through, driven by the hope that the boy had made it far enough away. Just when he thought he could gain a lead, voices echoed like thunder around him. "There he is! Grab him! Don't let him get away!" Apache steeled himself, glancing left and right for any sign of an escape, but the darkness closed in, thick as a shroud. Then, just ahead, he noticed a massive tangle of underbrush. It was overgrown, but it might be a path to safety. He dove into the thicket, the branches tearing at his clothes, but he didn't feel the pain. The sounds of pursuit loomed closer. Apache pressed himself down, hiding within the mass of greenery. His breaths were ragged, each inhale sharp and shallow. Silence surrounded him, the kind that felt electric. The laughter faded into the distance, but that didn't mean they were gone. He forced himself to remain still, to listen. Time stretched, muscles tightening as he waited for the inevitable moment of discovery. Suddenly, a branch cracked nearby. Apache's heartbeat thudded louder, echoing in his ears. Panic surged as he saw a figure lurking at the edge of the trees, scanning the area. The figure didn't move, as though it sensed something or someone was close. Apache held his breath, praying the boy had escaped, praying the widow was far from this nightmare. The tension felt suffocating, thick enough to choke on, and then came the unmistakable sound of a scream so familiar it twisted something inside Apache. It was the widow. No! It escaped him. In a rush, a whispered plea filled with dread. He had to make a choice, but the weight of helplessness bore down on him hard. His eyes darted around, searching for a way to help her, the shadows still inching closer. Could he remain hidden and hope for a miracle? Or did he join the fray, risking everything to pull her from the jaws of danger? He could almost hear the whispers of the trees urging him forward, the night itself a living entity, alive with fear and uncertainty. In that moment, tucked in the underbrush, Apache clenched his fists, a decision forming like lightning in the storm of his mind. He would find her, no matter the cost. He would face the darkness head-on, for her, for the boy. He prepared to spring into action. The world around him fell silent once more. Wide eyes were watching him. It wasn't just the figures anymore. What else lurked in the shadows? What awaited him in the heart of the darkness? Apache's heart raced as he leaned deeper into the underbrush, willing silence to enfold him like a blanket. The scream that pierced the night clenched his gut. It was her. The widow. His thoughts turned wild. What had happened to her? He couldn't shake the vision of her, vulnerable and defenseless against the dark figures that roamed these woods. With every ragged breath, he felt a mix of fear and determination gnawing at him. He had to help her. The figure at the edge of the trees shifted. Apache's body tensed, ready to bolt if they came any closer. Shadows played tricks with his mind. Were there more? He shut his eyes, imagining the boy running free, far from this horror. Yet, he could not shake the weight of responsibility. Suddenly, another scream echoed, this one closer, more desperate. It jolted him from his thoughts. Apache glanced through the branches, his heart pounding. The figure loomed nearer. The moon flashed, illuminating a twisted smile, a cruel, hungry grin. What did they want with her? The questions danced in his mind. Would they hurt her? With a surge of adrenaline, he decided he couldn't wait any longer. He slid out of the underbrush, urgency propelling him forward. Each step felt like stepping into the jaws of a beast. The world outside was dark, thick with trees enclosing him. The silence felt wrong, pregnant with expectation. He moved cautiously, searching for any sign of the widow. Every rustle in the leaves made him jump. Were they watching? Dozens of eyes filled with malice. His breath caught as he heard laughter again, but this time mixed with something else, a low growl, vibrating through the ground beneath him. He pressed on. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught his attention. A figure darted between the trees, a wild flash of dark hair. It was the widow. Relief flooded him as he broke into a sprint. "Widow!" he called, but his voice felt small against the vastness of the forest. He pushed harder, branches brushing against his skin like sharp fingers. Then he stumbled, falling to the ground hard. Pain licked at his knees as he quickly scrambled up, brushing off dirt and leaves. But when he got to his feet, the laughter grew louder, a wave of sound that crashed over him. He was closer now, he could feel it. "Apache!" A voice cried out, full of fear, and the world shrank to that one sound. He dashed toward her, his heart pounding with reckless hope. The laughter echoed all around him, but all he saw was the silhouette of the widow, no longer running but standing still, facing an unseen danger. "Stop!" he yelled, the desperation raw in his throat. But as he approached, her gaze turned towards him, and he froze. There was something hollow in her eyes, something empty and filled with dread. Then it came, a creature, beast-like and grotesque, slinking from the shadows. Apache stumbled back. It towered over him, its eyes glowering, mouth dripping with sharp teeth. The widow's scream shattered the night once again, but this time, it wasn't a cry for herself. It was for him. "Run! Get out of here!" She shouted, but her voice trembled. The creature lunged, a blur of darkness and teeth, and Apache felt time slow as he leapt to protect her. A surge of raw terror shot through him. Would he be enough? Just as he reached her side, everything erupted into chaos. The beast howled, the laughter resumed, a cacophony of sound that drowned his thoughts, sending his heart racing wildly. "Stay back!" he warned, but would it even listen? The darkness closed in, the shadows swirling around them like a storm. Apache's breath caught in his throat as he stared into the creature's wicked gaze. Where was the boy? Had he truly escaped? Doubt gnawed at him like a parasite. And just beyond the howls and shrieks, he heard the faintest whisper. A voice echoed through the trees, haunting, familiar. "Find the heart before it's too late." Could they even survive this night? What other secrets lay hidden in the forest? As the creature lunged once more, the certainty of impending doom wrapped around Apache, tightening its grip. Could he protect the widow? The shadows were closing in and they were hungry. What price would he pay to save them both? Apache felt the ground tremble beneath him. The beast lunged closer. Its breath reeked of rot and malice. The widow pressed against him, her eyes wide with fear. "Get behind me!" he shouted, but it felt futile. The creature's growl boomed through the trees, a warning, a proclamation of its hunger. His body screamed for action. Apache clenched his fists and took a step forward. The creature hesitated for a heartbeat, as if sizing him up. Every fiber in his being urged him to run, yet the sight of the widow fueled his courage. "Stay back!" he barked, trying to sound braver than he felt. Heat surged in his chest. The growl rumbled again, but Apache found clarity. Just behind him, the shadows flickered, and sudden movement caught his eye. A second figure stepped from the darkness, a man, tall and menacing, with eyes that glowed like fireflies. He laughed softly, a chilling sound that danced in the night air. "Ah, look what we have here," he taunted, "a hero and his lady. What do you want?" Apache called, voice trembling, hands shaking with adrenaline. The man stepped closer, his expression twisted into a smirk. "To witness the end of your little romance. She belongs to us now," he hissed, gesturing toward the creature. "And you will make such a fine meal." "What do you mean?" "She's not yours," Apache shouted, struggling to keep his fear from spilling into panic. The man laughed again, and the creature twisted its head, focusing on the widow, who stood frozen beside him. "Run! Now!" Apache yelled. But she didn't move. A paralyzing fear had gripped her. The beast's mouth opened wide, revealing rows of jagged teeth, saliva dripping like venom. With each second that passed, it felt like the night wrapped tighter around them, closing in like a vice. "Remember the heart," a whisper slid through his mind again. But what heart? He had no time to think. "Get out of here!" he yelled again, his voice desperate. The man lowered his head, watching, amused by the chaos. The creature shifted closer, a dark wave against the backdrop of trees. His thoughts raced. The widow's breath hitched. Fear flickered in her eyes, and guilt filled Apache's chest. Could he really protect her? The shadows danced around them, more figures appearing, surrounding them. "Stop!" he shouted again, panic rising. If they didn't move, they would be consumed by the darkness. In one swift moment, he grabbed the widow's hand, fingers interlocking like a lifeline. "We have to go. Follow me." But before they could turn, the creature lunged, snapping its jaws inches from Apache's face. Time froze as he jerked back, instinct pushing them apart. The widow screamed. Apache felt a knot twist in his stomach as he realized they were trapped. Panic shot through him. He needed a plan. Quick! The trees! He urged, pointing to the thickest part of the woods behind them. They might find cover, a place to regroup. With a jolt of hope, they dashed towards the trees, their footsteps muffled by the thick undergrowth. But within moments, something sharp grazed his leg. He stumbled, pain blossoming as he looked down. Blood trickled, hot and red. Apache! The widow turned, horror etched on her face. It's fine, keep going. He lied through gritted teeth, pushing himself up. But the creature was gaining ground, and the laughter echoed in their ears, mingling with the distant howls. They plunged deeper into the trees, branches reaching out like claws. The world around him morphed into a blur of shadows and fear. Every crack of a twig, every rustle of leaves sent adrenaline surging through him. Where are we going? The widow panted, her voice tinged with doubt. Apache glanced back. The glow of the eyes lingered behind them, relentless and hungry. We need to find shelter. He could feel the pull of panic. The dark figures were closing in. There had to be a way out. Just then, he spotted an old rundown cabin peering through the branches. Hope flared. Over there! He shouted, steering her toward the flickering silhouette. They raced up to the door, and Apache slammed it shut as soon as they slipped inside. The musty air enveloped them, stale and thick. They were safe, at least for the moment. But the laughter still echoed outside, carrying through the walls. It was just beyond reach, taunting them. What awaited them in the darkness? Apache, the widow whispered, fear reverberating in her voice. What do we do now? His heart sank. The creature was waiting, the man was playing with their fate, and time was running out. The woods held too many secrets, and the night was far from over. What darkness was still lurking out there, waiting for them to lower their guard? Something stirred outside. A shadow moved past the window. Would they make it until dawn? Or would the shadows claim them once and for all? The sound of claws scraping against the cabin door sent icy chills down Apache's spine. He pressed his back against the wood, breath coming in ragged gasps. The widow stood beside him, her eyes wide, reflecting terror. They needed to be quiet, but panic buzzed between them. Is it gone? She whispered, voice quivering like a leaf in the wind. Apache shook his head, feeling the weight of fear settle like a stone in his chest. I don't know. The words felt heavy, clinging to his tongue. Outside, the laughter danced on the air, haunting and cold. It snaked around the cabin, filling the silence with dark promise. The creature's growling deepened, a low rumble vibrating through the walls. I can't stay here, he said, the urgency spilling from him. The dread wrapped around them like a suffocating blanket. We can't wait. We have to find a way out. But where? She pleaded, glancing at the only window. The dark shadows played tricks on her mind. What if it's a trap? His heart raced. We can't let fear hold us captive. We need a plan. They had to move, but he felt the invisible chains binding them to the spot. Energy pulsed in his veins, building with every echo of laughter outside. Suddenly, a crash jolted him. Apache turned, fingers curling into fists, primal instinct flaring. Stay close, he ordered, pushing the door open just a crack. His heart beat wildly, a drum signaling impending doom. The moonlight streamed through the opening, illuminating the surrounding trees, now looming like watchful giants. But darkness crawled closer, shadows curling and twisting, oozing around the edges of the cabin. Before he could react, the door jolted under the weight of something monstrous. The widow gasped, and Apache shoved the door closed with all his strength. A screech echoed horrible and raw. The noise stirred the wilderness to life, and Apache's mind spiraled. Wait. The widow's voice sliced through the chaos. There's a back door. We can escape. Go! He shouted, urgency spilling. I'll hold it. No! We go together. Her resolve shone through her fear, and he saw it spark in her eyes a flicker of hope. She grabbed his arm, gripping tightly, rock solid amid the frenzy around them. Just then, claws scraped the wood again, this time with enough force to crack the surface. Apache knew they only had seconds. This way. He yanked open the back door, and they spilled into the cool night. The forest engulfed them, a sea of shadows dancing under a blanket of stars. They ran, arms pumping, hearts racing. Behind them, the cabin trembled with fury, but they pushed on, tearing through branches and undergrowth. Every step felt like an escape from the jaws of a nightmare, but the growling pursued them, relentless. Apache! The widow shouted, breathless. What direction? He glanced around. The darkness seemed to conspire against them, every shadow a potential threat. Towards the river. Stay close. They veered left, the sound of rushing water growing louder, mingling with the growl that now echoed through the forest like a living thing. His pulse raced, thundering in his ears, drowning out reason. Look! She said, pointing ahead. The glimmer of moonlight on water sparked solace in his chest. Relief surged as they ran toward it, but lurking within him was a dread something was waiting. As they reached the riverbank, frantic splashes broke the serene surface. His heart sank. It might be too deep. But there was no time to dwell. They could hear it now, the creature's heavy breathing closing in. There was no turning back. Jump! He yelled, grabbing her hand. Together they leapt, plunging into the cold water. The shock hit them, freezing, pulling them down. Apache propelled upward, breaking through, gasping for air. The widow surfaced beside him, spluttering, but then, they heard the growl again, echoing along the banks. Above them, shadows flickered, the man's laughter ringing loud, mocking their despair. Did you really think you could escape? Farther down the river, the current pulled fiercely. The sound of rustling branches grew ominously closer. Each second felt like fate teetering on the edge of a blade. Swim! Apache urged, kicking against the current. But doubt gnawed at him. What if this was the end? Would they drown, swallowed by their own fear? His grip tightened on the widow's hand. They moved together, fighting the tide, hearts pounding against the night. Yet, the laughter taunted them ever closer. Apache's instincts screamed that danger always lurked just out of sight. A flash of movement under the water caught his eye. The widow glanced back, her breath hitching. Apache! She cried. He turned, shock freezing his limbs. Dark shapes circled below them, gliding stealthily through the water. Were they aquatic beasts or shadows of their fears come to life? The river narrowed ahead, the current churning savagely. They had to escape, but would they survive whatever was lurking beneath? A sense of dread pressed into his chest as he swam harder, visions of predators streamed through his mind. What awaited them in those depths? Would they ever truly be safe again? The night only deepened, secrets loomed larger than ever. As darkness continued to haunt the water, Apache knew every choice carried a weight they couldn't foresee. And just as he felt the deadly current tug at their limbs, a sudden silence descended, heavy and forbidding. What hidden danger lurked beneath the surface, and would they find a way to break free before it was too late? The water tugged at them with sinister intent. Apache's muscles screamed as he fought against the current, dragging the widow along. Panic surged. What if they couldn't make it? What if whatever was lurking beneath them pulled them under and never let go? He glanced over his shoulder. The shadows danced beneath the surface, darting closer as if sensing their fear. Don't let go, he shouted, adrenaline surging like fire through his veins. I'm trying. She gasped, struggling to keep pace. Her face bore a mix of dread and determination. Each stroke seemed to get harder, the river's grip tightening, pulling at their legs like icy fingers. The laughter echoed above them again. It rippled through the night, mocking and cruel. "Did you think you could swim away?" it called, sending chills down Apache's spine. He wanted to cover his ears, block it out, but it was everywhere inside his head, wrapping around his heart that he fought harder, propelling himself and the widow toward the bank, but with every kick, the shape below them seemed to swell, looming ever closer. A dark fin broke the water, slicing through, and his stomach dropped. They were not alone. "Look!" the widow screamed, pointing at the shadow darting beneath them. Apache's heart danced with fear as he felt the rush of cold water suck him down. It was wide, far too big for just a fish. "Swim!" he yelled, urgency clawing at him. He propelled forward, using every ounce of strength left. The bank seemed so far away, the current relentless, but he couldn't let her go. Not now. Every stroke felt like it took forever. Water poured into his lungs, each gasp threatening to drown him. He looked back. The shadow under the surface twisted, almost moving like it had a mind of its own, hunting them. A heartbeat was all he could hear, thumping against the silence. Then, the water erupted, and a massive head breached the surface. Eyes like dark pits stared right at them, hungry and intent. Its jaws opened, revealing teeth sharp enough to shred flesh. A horrified scream tore from the widow's throat. "Apache!" She clawed at the water, panic consumed her. He tugged at her, motivated by sheer will. "They couldn't perish like this. Keep swimming!" he screamed, pushing their bodies toward the bank amidst the chaos. With one last big kick, they hit the shallows. The sandy bottom felt like solid ground again, but the threat was still close. Fear twisted inside him, a knot that wouldn't loosen. Just as they reached land, the creature surged forward, jaws snapping at where they had been just a second before. Apache stumbled as he pulled the widow onto the shore, dragging her out of reach. They collapsed together in the dirt, gasping for air, hearts racing. The laughter from above morphed into a cruel melody, vibrating in the air, chilling them to the core. Wet and exhausted, they lay on the bank, pulses racing, but the danger wasn't over. The shadow moved through the water, circling, waiting. Apache looked around. Tall trees framed their escape, but what lay beyond was still unclear. "Are we safe?" the widow whispered, the tremor in her voice echoing the uncertainty in his heart. "I don't know," he admitted, hugging her close. They were out of the water, but in truth, they were still just as trapped. Darkness closed in around them, filled with threats they couldn't see but could feel creeping ever closer. Then that dreadful laughter rang out again, slicing through the night. It sent shivers down his spine. What did it want? Why was it toying with them? "Apache," she murmured against him, eyes wide with fear. "What was that thing?" "I wish I knew." He fell silent, letting the sound of their rapid breathing fill the void between them. Just then, a rustle in the bushes caught his attention. A shadow moved, darting with purpose toward them. What now? Panic surged again. Their eyes locked, silent questions filling the space. Would they be faced with another beast? Or was it something else entirely waiting for them in the shadows? As the figure drew closer, Apache felt the weight of uncertainty hanging heavy in the air. What? More terror awaited them in this forest, and would they be able to confront it together? As the shadows coalesced, a figure emerged from the trees. The boy, breathless and wild-eyed, his dirt-streaked cheeks glistening with fear and relief. "Apache! Widow! You made it! I was so scared." His voice broke, and he rushed toward them like a lifeline. Apache's heart soared. "You found us!" He wrapped an arm around the boy, pulling him close. Relief rushed through him like the river they had just escaped. "Did you see it?" the boy gasped, glancing anxiously back toward the darkness, his small body trembling. "Yes," Apache replied, his voice steadying. "But it can't reach us now." He turned to the widow, who still shivered beside him, the icy grip of fear tightening in her chest. "We're safer together." The boy's eyes brightened with a mix of courage and apprehension. I saw something that way. A light. We can follow it. The widow straightened, the flicker of hope igniting within her. Then we should go before the darkness finds us again. It's our only chance. Apache nodded, feeling the certainty of her words. Hand in hand, the three of them plunged into the underbrush, stumbling slightly but driven by urgency. They moved cautiously, the night alive with unseen sounds, but the tension of fear faded. Perhaps this was their turning point. As they wound through the thick brush, the distant flame of light danced ahead, flickering like a torch held high amidst the wood. Sweat beaded on Apache's forehead, but adrenaline propelled them onward, banishing memories of the monstrous creature lingering in the depths. The closer they got, the clearer the light became. Soon, they pushed past the last row of trees into an open clearing. There, amidst the whispers of the night, stood an old cabin half collapsed but glowing with an inviting warmth. Please let it be safe, Apache muttered, stepping forward cautiously. The boy nodded, shaking. Maybe they're friendly. They have to be, the widow whispered, glancing at Apache, eyes vibrant with hope and lingering fear. Together, we can find out. They approached the front porch, its wood worn but sturdy. As they reached for the door, it creaked open slowly, revealing a soft glow from inside. A voice, stern yet soft, called out. Come in, quickly. Without waiting for assurance, they rushed inside, panting but relieved. The interior was a sanctuary amidst the turmoil. A fire crackled in the hearth, filling the air with warmth. An older woman, wise and kind, smiled at them with eyes like the night sky. What brings you here, dear ones? She asked, her hands working busily over a pot on the stove. Apache felt the weight of everything tumble off his shoulders. We were running from a darkness, he said, glancing back at the door behind them. It was hunting us. The woman nodded knowingly, her expression grave. The woods hold many secrets, but within them is also light. You are safe here. Rest. The weight of those words washed over them like a soothing balm. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Apache felt a flicker of peace. They sank onto the floor, the tension melting away with every breath. The boy nestled against the widow, who wrapped her arms around him protectively. Apache looked on, his heart swelling with a sense of belonging. They were no longer alone. Hours passed, filled with gentle conversations that danced around the threats they had faced. They shared stories, dreams, the losses that had led them here. They laughed despite the ghosts that clung to their hearts, but as dawn approached, the shadows receded, and uncertainty trickled back in. Apache looked at the widow, her gaze fierce yet tender, full of understanding and determination. What happens now? He asked, his heart heavy with questions. She met his gaze, fierce conviction burning in her eyes. We take each day as it comes. Together. The boy, still nestled against her, looked up and whispered, and we won. Let the darkness win again. With that, a collective strength coursed through them as if forging bonds stronger than chains. Together, they would start anew, each heartbeat echoing the war they had fought, the scars they carried, and a future waiting to unfold. As sunlight spilled over the horizon, they breathed fresh air deep into their lungs, embracing the reclamation of their lives in a world threaded with both shadows and light. Together, they ventured forth, hearts entwined, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Now, more than ever, this was their moment. This was just the beginning. Before you go, I need you to be part of this journey. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss any exclusive stories coming your way. Don't wait even one more second to share this adventure with your friends. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Join the family and let us take this journey together.